absolutely the third and final step. But step one, choosing the correct game. Okay, so have you played the game through casually? This is extremely important. Before I ever consider whether or not I'm going to speedrun a game, I always do a casual playthrough of the game. And so one of the questions I get a lot when I'm streaming speedruns is like, hey, have you speedrun this game? Like, would you consider doing it? And usually my response is, no. And it's like, oh, I've never actually fully played through that game, so I'd have to do that before I consider speedrunning it. So before you even consider speedrunning game, you need to, I highly request that you play the game casually. Speedrunning situation, no, don't worry, Mega. Don't worry, Mega. I'll explain this in a second. Step two, right? If yes, you move on to the next step. All right, next. Did you enjoy the gameplay? Did you actually enjoy playing the game? Were you excited to re-enter the game, right? If you're like, oh, I have to pause this so I can go grocery shopping, or, oh man, I really should feed my pet. It's been like 24 hours and I haven't stopped playing this game, right? It's like, please feed your pet. But also, if you just get excited about playing the game, this is a really great and very important step. So if you didn't enjoy the actual gameplay of the game, like the story or how the game functions, like the skills and stuff involved in the game, do you like the turn-based style of the game? Do you like real time? Do you like all of these other things, aspects of these games? And if so, then that's awesome. Then you just move on to the next step. So as long as you can say something awesome about the game you're playing, you're good to go. You're good to go. So step three, did you enjoy the mechanics of the game? And so this is sort of the really important point, and like the one I can't stress the most, okay? Is that the mechanics are like some of the most important thing. Oh, thank you so much for that follow, Borg Leader. Thank you, my friends. But that being said, the mechanics of the game are sort of the bread and butter of the speedrun. Like, you're going to spend most of your time doing the same thing over and over again. And so, like a speedrun like Diablo 2, for instance, like a Sorceress speedrun, you have to enjoy casting like Lightning Field and Lightning Nova if you want to do that. And so if you don't enjoy doing the actual mechanics and the actual playing of the game, then you're just going to end up burning yourself out and not enjoying the game. Okay, so it's very important that the actual mechanics of what you have to do to be proficient at that game is something that you enjoy doing. And it's okay, there's some aspects of Jedi Knight Academy that I don't really enjoy mechanistically, and for the most part I'm able to sort of work my way around it. Like, there's certain strategies I literally am just like, I'm just not going to do, because I just don't enjoy doing them. And it's the same sort of thing also with how you do your routing and stuff when you do a speedrun, because it's important that you sort of enjoy the overall mechanics. That being said, though, moving on, have you tried exploiting or optimizing the game? So if you're someone that says, like when you play a MMORPG, right? Like speccing your skills and like picking the right specs, right? If you like using Sweeping Strike a lot, right? You're obviously going to want to pick the perk that increases Sweeping Strike damage. So that is an idea of optimization, right? Picking sort of extra advantages or things that set you up to be more easily successful in the game. And then do you like going through and picking those things? So like in Dark Souls, right? Do you like dodging, right? Every single time and then being able to hit him without taking a single hit? Or do you like dodging away and like timing your Estus and waiting? Or do you just like dodge away and just hit the Estus and then like, fingers crossed, I hope he doesn't hit me, right? Like, even that's okay, right? Like, but there's certain aspects of the game that you do try and optimize every single time. So do you enjoy doing that, or have you tried doing that? And if you have, that's a really good. No matter how little, no matter how silly, like whether it's like walking in a straight line as instead of like walking in a zigzag to get to a point. If you enjoyed getting from A to B quicker, boom, you're a speedrunner, right? Like that's it. It's like, it's not that big idea of, oh, everything has to be optimal. Oh, everything has to be refined to the absolute T. But if you do that, that's perfect. Then, like, you're absolutely going to love speedrunning, like 100%. That being said, though, also doing exploits, right? And so here I have this image of me playing, SWTOR, where I used to do a 1 hour pre-show when me and Ara would stream this, and I called it, what was it? It was like covert muffin climbing shit. And all I would try and do is climb out of bounds and get up to places that I wasn't supposed to be. So here it's actually kind of hard to see, but I'm actually standing on an invisible ceiling, like way above. So this is a tree, and that's like way taller than the player model. However, I'm above that tree because I was able to climb out of bounds and stand on top of this story area, which is usually only accessible through one entrance. But I was able to climb on top of some ridiculous like hills and stuff and just do this. So like if you like going to places that you're not supposed to go or taking the unintended route in a linear style game, or even a game that isn't linear, like an open game like Skyrim, like I never took pathways in Skyrim. I was always like climbing up the mountains and stuff like that. Then that you will love speedrunning, because speedrunning has like so much of that. Looking at covert muffin climbing shit. Yeah. This was also my character. It's kind of hard to read, but his name was No Pants, No Problem. And one of the conditions I had when I played through this game of SWTOR is I just did not wear pants items. So I had like much lower stats because I took that penalty just for the sake of being able to show my boxers off. That being said, silliness aside, then the last but not least, if you did indeed think about like exploiting, or you just did like minor optimizations, regardless of how minor or major, you should just try saying, hey, I wonder how quickly I can do that. Like, I want to see like how quickly I can do that. And then, boom, right? That's it. That's the gateway drug into doing a full speedrun, is just trying to do something quickly. And that is a great way of choosing the correct game. Yeah. Next up is watching speedrun content. So you've picked a game, you said, hey, I think I want to try speedrunning this, but I have no fucking idea what's actually involved in the speedrun. So, the first step to this is to say, okay, well, where do I actually find relevant speedruns to this game? Oh, excuse me. Whew. And the best place to go is to speedrun.com. Then there's a search bar at the top, and we'll go through this. After this presentation, we're going to actually go in. I'm going to show how to set up live split. I'm going to show how to pick, find a game for speedrunning, and then to look at the leaderboards, figure out what the rules are, etc., etc., etc. But that being said, speedrun.com is an excellent place to start. That is always the first place I tell people to go. Next is also to just search on Google and YouTube, because sometimes people will have done speedruns. So if you can't find something on speedrun.com, which is like extremely rare, that is so rare, so rare, then just do a Google or YouTube search for the game name and speedrun. And then that's it. And then something should pop up. Like there's a speedrun of everything. Sell out! I have no affiliation with speedrun.com. I just fucking love it as a tool. Last but not least, actually one of my favorite websites is speedrunslive.com. So speedrunslive.com is like a live hosting where people can sort of link their Twitch streams into accounts on Speedruns Live, and then it just shows them, right, and it puts them all in a list based on viewer count. And then you can search for various games, and then also they do live race hosting, so if you'd like to see people who speedrun the same gaming category race against each other, that's also a great place to check those out. That being said, the second thing is, well, I have all of these speedruns to watch, but which ones should I watch? Like, how do I sort of go through these lists? Well, it's important to look, if you find a leaderboard, to definitely pick a variety of skill. And so usually what I suggest is to look at the world record, look at the run that's sort of like a mid-level run in the list, and then look at a new run. And oftentimes you won't have this nice variety of runs and skill level. However, oftentimes there will be multiple people who run the game, and it's good to sort of look at a nice variety of runs. You don't just want to look at the world record if you can help it, because that's sort of doesn't give you the full picture of what to expect when you yourself go in to do the speed run. Next is newer the run, more recent the strats and routes. So if a run got posted to the leaderboard 2 days ago, as opposed to a run that was posted to the leaderboard a year ago, the one that was posted 2 days ago will have the most recent strategies and routes to usually go the quickest. And so that's a really, really good run to watch, is ones that are more recent. And those are usually very, very accurate. So a run that comes out in the past like month or two is usually really, really good for up-to-date stuff. But try to stay away runs that are like 3 years old or something like that, unless that's the earliest those runs have been posted. Then those are still good. But usually fresh runs are the best ones to watch. Also watching marathon performances. So watching GDQ, like go into YouTube and search for blah speedrun, like game name speedrun GDQ. And if it's been performed at Games Done Quick, then it'll pop up, and then you get to watch the run. And the runner will oftentimes be explaining, or the couch commentary will be explaining what's going on with each trick and sort of the mechanics of the game. That can be very, very useful to getting a scope of what to expect when you speedrun. ESA is also one of my favorite marathons, and then there's also just like tons and tons of other really, really incredible speedrun marathons like Shots Fired, etc., etc. That being said, the third thing to look for speedrun content is speedrunning guides. Go to YouTube and search for blah speedrun guide, or any percent guide, or something like that. Put your favorite speedrun buzzword into it and search for that. So oftentimes world record holders or really established runners who are very confident in their skills and mechanics will make a overall guide for the overall speedrun. Like Sajiki made a really incredible 3-hour speedrunning guide for JK, and that was sort of my gateway into, before I sort of reached out to community, which I'll get into next slide, what I looked at first, and that was really, really helpful to me. And then also, like after you watch the guide, if you found one, to just try some of the strats and tricks yourself. And this can be a really good indicator of whether or not you would enjoy doing the speedrun by just like trying them out yourself. And but don't get dissuaded if you can't do a lot of them, because there might be stuff you're not thinking of, and that's where the guides really, really come into handy. That being said, last but not least, be impressed. Don't be discouraged, because the best speedrunners of a game are usually there for a reason. Those are the people that have put the most time and effort and energy into the game itself, or who are very naturally talented and geared toward that game and have been very successful because of that, because of their understanding and hard work into the mechanics. And so speedrunning is an art just as much as it is a science. So understanding how something functions does not immediately translate into being able to do that often. And so don't be discouraged if you can't get something as consistently as a speedrun. Yeah, that's very, very important. Very, very important. Next, for the third step, is reaching out to a community. And so this is very, very useful for getting into speedruns. Always, always something I suggest. Like one of the reasons why I've stuck with Jedi Knight Academy for so long, for the past year, like 13 to 14 months, is because I have absolutely loved the community, and I've really fit in well, and I've been able to interact with them a lot, and it's been just like so much fun for me. And so that being said, let's talk about how to reach out to a community initially, because it can seem very, very intimidating, especially if you're like me and you're really shy by nature and very introverted. It can be very, very difficult and imposing to sort of reach out to begin with. But that being said, the first thing I like to do is how to find communities, right? Follow the Twitch and YouTube channels of people who run your game. And I'm going to show you exactly how to do this after we finish this slideshow. And so it's as simple as going to thespeedrun.com, you find the leaderboards, you find the world record holder, you click on their profile name, go to their profile, and usually there's like a Twitch icon right there, and you just click it, and then it just links you to their Twitch page, and you just follow them. And then next time they go live, just watch it and say, hey, I watched your PB of Bloody Blah game, and I was really impressed. Just say that you watched it, and then that's a really, really great introduction to that person. And they will be like, oh, that's great. Like, and they might even ask you, like, what you think. We're like, oh, what do you think? We're like, are you interested in speedrunning? Like, et cetera, et cetera. And then also a good way of finding communities is to check the resources tab on the speedrun.com page. I'm also going to show this after the slideshow. There's like a tab along the side that you just click resources, and it will usually or often have a direct link to a Discord or a forum. And so Discord is like a social server that allows people to do voice chat and also have text channels where they like post strategies and stuff like that in discussion. Like Jedi Knight Academy has their own dedicated Discord to people who speedrun. Not necessarily speedrun the game. There's a lot of people in there that actually don't speedrun the game, but they have helped out in some form, or they just are part of the speedrunning community. They just are. But oftentimes, if there isn't a Discord, people will have like a SDA, which is Speed Demos Archive forum, where you can just make a post in and say, hey, it's a me, I'm a new. That brings us to number 2, introducing yourself. Really, like most of the time, my experience with reaching out to communities is that speedrunners are welcoming for the most part, and they enjoy helping you out. Like it's so true. Like people always just get really excited when you just say, hey, I have some interest in trying to speedrun your game. And like honestly, if people can get more people to speedrun that game, that's not just helping you to get better at the game, but it's also helping them, because they might see you do something that they wouldn't think of, and they say, huh, that's actually really cool. I'm going to apply that to my speedrun. Like the tons of times that I've watched people speedrun after I help them learn Jedi Knight Academy, and I see them do something that I didn't initially think of. Like I can't count the number of times. I literally can't, because it's happened so much. And so not only is it because people are usually like helpful and welcoming, but it's also because it can actually be very fruitful for them. And that's all sort of a plus on top of being really excited to help you learn. Because most people who speedrun the game are usually pretty passionate about it. They really enjoy the game a lot. Can't see because of Santa hat. Oh my god, Mega. But that being said, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid of them, because speedruns are usually very welcoming and very polite. There are a couple of people that can be very, very toxic, and usually it's a wise decision to sort of distance yourself from them if you're feeling a little intimidated. But also don't get discouraged by people who are trying to be competitive and stuff. But we'll talk about that a little bit later. That being said, though, keep it short and just be yourself. Like, honestly, when you go to say that, when you type that first line in the Discord server and you introduce yourself, just say, hey, I'm blah. I'm interested in learning how to speedrun this game. That's it. That's literally all you have to say. And then people will be like, oh, hey, welcome. Like, it's great to have you. Like, I hope you have fun learning the game. Or like, do you have any questions? Like, do you need any help? Et cetera, et cetera. So just like keep it short. If you write a huge paragraph of text, more times than not, people just like won't read it, and they'll just like sort of gloss over it, and they might miss something that you really want to express to the people. So it's very, very useful to be a bit more concise and not go on for too long, like I'm doing right now. That being said, the third thing is to be how to get useful advice. Important things to ask and say. So the first thing you sort of want to ask when you first get into a community after you've introduced yourself is to say, where do I start to learn? Like, even if you are like really confident that you know exactly what you want to do to start out, always ask this question. Always just say, hey, where do you guys suggest that I start? And then are there certain tricks? Are there certain levels or areas to practice at first to help you learn the mechanics a bit more? Is there a certain guide that I just like couldn't find for some reason that you would suggest me looking at? And if you're feeling too lazy to look for guides and stuff, but you're interested in interacting with the community, they will often just like give you all of the resources. Like I recently just like PM'd a speedrunner named Mr. Walrus, who I'm savvy with, and I was just like, hey, I might be running Dishonored, like, where should I start? And then he just sent me, like, 5 different links of, like, guides and stuff for tricks and routing. Nice to meet you, blah. Yeah, exactly what Sui's saying. Are there certain tools to help with learning it? Etc., etc. And then also, very, very useful is to just say, hey, I stream, and I'm going to stream me learning the speedrun. One of the best things you can do for yourself is to stream you learning the speedrun. Because oftentimes, communities get really excited. Like the Jedi Knight Academy community, a lot of people in the community really enjoy helping people learn in a live setting. It's most easiest for them to help you while you're streaming. So if you're streaming and you're trying a single jump like over and over again, you can't do it, they'll oftentimes just be like, hey, you're doing this, like, don't do that, like, do this instead, or like, try to do this a little bit more instead of this. And it's really, really great constructive atmosphere to be able to get advice. Yeah, Arcar says, yeah, Walrus is cool. Yeah, Walrus is awesome. Etc., etc. And then you can like also like go through the settings with them and stuff on the stream. Go to like the settings page and be like, is this good or is this bad for the speedrun, etc., etc. And sort of the last bullet of this third point that's very, very important is that asking a good question is a skill. So if they give you a bad answer or not the answer you were necessarily looking for, it's important to understand that more times than not, it's because you did not ask a good question. And so asking a good question that gets you that certain response is a skill. It's very, very difficult to actually do this proficiently and consistently. It does take a lot of practice. So don't get disheartened if they give you a completely wrong answer. Just be like, hey, sorry, I must have like phrased this wrong, or I don't exactly understand where you're going with this. Could you like elaborate more in this way, right? Say, could you give me more advice on this perhaps, et cetera, et cetera. So never feel abashed or discouraged for asking for a clarification, but also understand that asking good questions takes time and it takes practice. It definitely does. Next, 4 is something that is sort of really difficult and uncomfortable to talk about, but it's respecting people's personal space. And so a lot of interactions with the communities can get toxic really quick, just simply because overstepping boundaries or you said something that you didn't intend in a certain way. So like, for example, there are people who take speedrunning very competitively and they get motivated by being competitive with other people and be like, I want to beat their time. But that person doesn't necessarily want you to make your speedrun about their time. And so it's very important that you reiterate that maybe you're not a competitive person and ask them to not be competitive at you because you speedrun for yourself. You don't do it to try and beat other people's times. And so it's also good to sort of be able to understand whether someone is a competitive speedrunner or if they're more like a self-focused runner or gamer, and then be able to sort of strategize how you interact with them based on that. And if you just do this, you'd be surprised at how many situations can just be avoided in the future. But also just, it never hurts to apologize. If you think you offended someone, never feel bad for saying, hey, I'm really sorry, I think I said something wrong and I really did not intend for it to be this way. I'm really, really sorry. But also to be thankful for them. If they're just like, oh yeah, no problem, then to just be like, oh, thank you so much. Yeah, I really appreciate that. Because a lot of speedrunning is sort of helping each other to improve and to learn and be passionate about the game, being able to share that with people. And so it's very, very good to be able to build on that and make that sort of the focus of your interaction, rather than, oh, I just totally wrecked your time, and like, oh, it's like, oh man, you made that mistake? It's like, yeah, I already feel like shit about it. It's like, thanks for pointing that out, et cetera, et cetera. The next sort of thing that people don't usually also think about is sending someone a DM which is a direct message as opposed to sort of posting in like the Discord or something. And so there's sort of a time and place for when you should DM people as opposed to posting them. But if someone doesn't respond to your DM, don't feel disheartened or something. They might just be a very busy person in general. It's not that they're necessarily avoiding you, but also just posting in the Discord itself like opens you up to that sort of forum-esque. And when that person has time or energy to think about the speedrun and help you out, usually posting in a Discord is the way to go. But if you have a targeting question like, hey, when you were helping me out on my stream yesterday, you told me for this trick to try this, but I just completely forgot, and I'm still having trouble with the trick. Could you like maybe explain it a bit more? And like oftentimes they'll just like make you a video and be like, yeah, sure, here's a short YouTube video of like 30 seconds of like how I approach this. And so like a DM can also be a very good thing, but it's usually good not to oversend DMs to people because they might have a hard time catching up with all of that. That being said, the last sort of point is the concept of asking a question versus demanding information. And so this is a very tricky thing to talk about, but the overall idea is that if you think a strategy is a different way, or if you don't understand how something works, it'd be like, well, I tried what you said and it didn't work, is the wrong thing to say, whereas I'm trying to apply what you just told me and I'm having trouble with it. Like, can you tell me like what I'm doing wrong? Or is there something else that I'm missing? Or I'm just like not doing as well as you're trying to get me to do, right? It's like, putting the blame on yourself is usually a good thing, but more so like asking them a question instead of being like, hey, I need you to tell me this information because you told it to me wrong. Because that is like never really a correct way of thinking about it, because it's a discussion and you are at fault more, if not just as much as the person. Yeah, awesome.